Hi everyone, my name is Cassie and I'm a community manager over on the Google Advertiser community. Today we're going to walk through some fundamentals about AdWords and make sure that you're all prepped for the AdWords search exam. And I just want to remind you that this is a live event. So if you have questions as we're walking through this, please go ahead over to the Hangout, share your question there, and we will set aside some time at the very end of the presentation to answer some of your questions. So let's dive right in. So today we're going to be going through a couple of different sections. Number one, we're going to be talking about search advertising as a whole, sort of what the landscape looks like right now. We're going to go a little bit deeper into search campaigns in particular, talk about what you need to do to set up a well-structured campaign there. And we'll also talk about what you need to do to make sure your ads are showing and that you're setting an appropriate bid. And then lastly, we'll talk about after you've set up that campaign, what you need to be looking for in your account to start optimizing that performance for making sure that you're getting a good ROI for your clients with AdWords. So number one, let's talk about that search advertising overview. As far as consumer behavior and the impact of search goes, we all know that consumers very often go to Google search to either learn more information or to find products that they might want to buy in the future or research different services. One thing that's become really important in the last couple of years because of the rise of mobile has been what we call micro moments. So you'll see here, these are those moments where someone wants to know something, wants to go somewhere, wants to do something, or wants to buy something. And because people have their mobile phone on them all the time, or they're using a tablet or their desktop computer when they're at home, it's increasingly important for advertisers to be present on all of these different platforms, wherever your potential customer is, so that you can make sure you're showing them the right messaging at the right time. People are conducting over 100 billion Google searches each month, and you want to make sure that out of all of those searches that you're there when your potential customers are. So every time potential customer searches, this is an opportunity for you as a marketer to actually influence that customer's decision and be there for them. So talking a little bit more about those trends that I mentioned, 4 in 5 customers want ads that are customized to what they're actually searching for and where they are at that moment. 1/2 of smartphone users and about 34% of computer and tablet users who conduct a local search will actually visit a store within 1 day after doing that search. So that's really powerful and just speaks more to how you really do need to be there for whether it's that initial search where they're doing research on different brands or whether it's that last-minute search to find directions to your business. People often use that product information that they find online to actually go in-store, brick and mortar, to make a purchase there too. Another statistic here, so 59% of smartphone users say that they find mobile ads useful, and another 56% have actually done a mobile search after seeing an ad. So someone might see an ad even on the TV or on their desktop computer and then switch over to mobile at a later time to do further research at their own convenience. 73% of those mobile searches trigger additional action, such as actually calling a business. And search ads drive an average increase of 6.6 percentage points of top-of-mind awareness. So the idea here is that when someone is asked to recall 5 brands after the fact, people are much more likely to remember your brand after seeing an ad. You have some other options here too, and we'll dive a little bit into these later on in the presentation, but because of all of the location bidding and location targeting that we can do with AdWords, it makes it quite easy to actually target these folks who are searching for you on mobile and really target them when they're in the area and can actually walk into the store. So let's talk about what this actually means in an AdWords account, since that's what the search exam is mainly about. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can choose the right campaign type for you, how you can organize that campaign, choose the right ad format, create better ads with extensions, and also understand the landing page experience. So what you're bringing to those potential customers when they click through an ad and actually land on your website. So let's talk about that, choosing a campaign type that's right for you. There are quite a few options within AdWords, so sometimes it can be a little bit confusing to figure out what's the right choice. The good news is that there's not necessarily one right answer. A lot of times companies will use many different campaign types all within their account, and they can complement each other in different ways. But I mean, the main idea here is that it all depends on the marketing goal that you're trying to achieve here. So when you choose a campaign type, you're basically saying where you want customers to be able to find your ads. And then the subtype underneath that is talking about the settings and the options within that overhead sort of type of campaign. So a search network only campaign, these are going to be ads that appear on Google search results, just like it sounds. And this can include specific controls for ads for someone searching on Google. And this is best if you only want to reach customers who are actually searching for your very specific product or service on google.com or on our search partners. The next option that you've probably heard of is the display network campaign type. And this is best when you want to reach customers when they're browsing online in other areas, not just on google.com. Can be really good for when you're trying to build awareness or really work on like a branding effort across a large audience. Search Network with Display Select is a relatively new campaign type compared to the last two, and it's especially good for newer advertisers. So if you're trying to reach people who are searching for your product or service, but also who are browsing the web, then this is a really good campaign type where you can reach both of those audiences without having to dedicate like resources and time to the separate campaign types of Search and Display Network only. And then lastly here we have video campaigns. So this is how you can show video ads to potential customers. Again, this is really great for those branding efforts reaching large audiences, especially because you can show these ads on youtube.com, which is the largest video search engine here. Then there's also a couple other campaign types that aren't shown on this slide. We have shopping campaigns as well as universal app campaigns, but we'll be talking a little bit more about those later as well. And then I mentioned the campaign subtypes earlier. The main things to note here are just that when you first create a search campaign, for example, the campaign subtype is going to be standard, which has the most commonly used settings. They'll show up for you so you don't have to go too in-depth to the nitty-gritty settings if you don't want to. But then if you decide to choose all features, this is what's going to enable you to do some more advanced stuff like doing ad scheduling or like more custom bidding and that type of thing. So if you think you might need those, those features later on, you can go ahead and hit all features, but you can always change between these at a later date. And then if you do see marketing objectives when you're setting up that campaign, that is just going to help show you those features in that campaign type that are most likely to help you reach those goals. But again, you can choose all features to see every option available. And so this is an overview of what a sample AdWords account structure looks like. And this is quite important as far as the building blocks of your account, your campaigns. If you have a good structure from the beginning, it makes everything a whole lot easier down the line. So AdWords is organized into these three different layers. At the very top level, you have your AdWords account. This is how you log in. Your email address is set up here, your billing information. And then below that, you can have multiple different campaigns. A lot of times these campaigns are structured around different marketing goals or different budgets, because on a campaign by campaign basis, you can decide that that campaign network that we were talking about last time, right? You can have a campaign for search, a campaign for display. You can decide how much budget you want to allocate between campaigns. And you can also do things like set individual location targeting. So if I want to have one campaign for a location I have in New York City and another campaign for a location I have in San Francisco, then this would be the best option to have completely separate campaigns for those two so that I can show different messaging to potential visitors there. Below that, the sort of bottom level is the ad group level. And the ad group is essentially just your collection of ads and keywords that are really tightly themed. So in this example on the screen here, we have your AdWords account, which if I'm maybe advertising for an online electronics store, I could have 2 different campaigns, one for budget televisions, one for budget cameras, because maybe budget televisions, that's more important to me. And so I'm going to want to set a different budget for the budget televisions campaign versus the budget cameras. Below each of those campaigns, I have different ad groups. So I'm going to have a completely different ad group for flat screen TVs than I do for plasma TVs, because users are going to type in different keywords when they're searching for these. And I want to be able to show them really specific ads. So if someone searches for flat screen TVs, then I want to be able to show that potential customer a flat screen TV ad and send them to the flat screen TV section of my website. And as far as tips here, this is obviously going to be different for different business types, different business goals, but you really want to think about structuring your AdWords account like you would structure your website, with each ad group representing like a part of the website or a category of that particular website. And you really want to, as well, try to organize your campaigns as you're creating them. Not necessarily just starting a campaign and saying, okay, I'll reorganize all of this later. That's not going to be very efficient. And it's also not a great idea, because if you do have to restructure it, move ad groups around and move ads around down the line, then you'll actually be creating new ad groups and new ads, and that can make it difficult to figure out that long-term performance data, which ads perform better, which ad groups perform better. So best to just get all of this out of the way at the beginning. And I guess last thing I would say here is that a lot of accounts are actually best organized as one campaign with several ad groups, each featuring 2 or 3 ads and 10 to 35 keywords per ad group. So I think erring on the side of more ad groups is often best, because then you can show that really specific messaging. Unless you need to do different location targeting, different network targeting, or different budgeting, you may not need a bunch of different campaigns all at once when you're starting out. Next piece here of actually setting up your search campaign is choosing the ad format that you want to use. There's a huge variety of ad formats depending on that campaign type that you selected, and each has sort of like their pluses and their minuses. Some things to keep in mind here. So a text ad is probably going to be the type of ad that you're most familiar with. You're going to have a headline, some lines of description, as well as your website where we're actually sending people to once they see your ad. And this is the type of ad that will appear on Google search, but also on the display network. If you choose to do that campaign type, you'll see that across the web, there are some websites that choose to show text ads. And so you can still have text ads in display campaigns as well. Ad extensions are a pretty interesting feature, one that we'll go a little bit more in depth into later, but these are essentially areas where you can add additional information below those text ads that I mentioned. So if you have, for example, a phone number and you have a brick and mortar store, you want people to call you, you can have a call extension right underneath that text ad to highlight the phone number, to encourage people to call you, if that's another action that you want people to take beyond just clicking to your website. Image ads are just like they sound. So that's just going to be you showing an image, whether that's of a specific product, of something else on your website, and you can have some text on there as well. This is a really common ad type across the display network that I mentioned. So when you're seeing banner ads across different websites, so whether it's like a news site, a blog, then those are usually what we call image ads. App promotion ads are a little bit different. This would be if rather than a certain product that you're selling or a certain service, you're trying to get people to download your mobile app that you've created. So with app promotion campaigns and app promotion ads, you can actually have a link to your app in the download store on Android or on iOS and let people hop straight to that download page if they're interested. Video ads are, of course, going to feature videos. Product listing ads, these are related to the shopping campaigns that I mentioned earlier. A product listing ad will usually show up on the right side of the Google search page, and this is where you'll see individual products, their prices, and where you can buy them. These are really good for, of course, e-commerce stores, but we'll go into that a little bit more. And the last type here is the call-only ads. So these ads are a little bit newer, but really ideal for folks who don't necessarily want to send people to their website. They really want to get that phone call. So this might be for a service where they're trying to drive leads, not necessarily looking for you to spend a lot of time on their website and then clicking away. If you really just need that phone call, if that's your client's #1 goal, then call-only ad can be a good type to explore as well. So let's talk a little bit about text and mobile ads. Text ads in particular have 3 different parts. So we have a headline, a description, and a display URL. So in this example, the headline is advertise with Google. We have a display URL, adwords.google.com, so people actually know where they're clicking to and where they're going to end up. And then for a description, we have something a little bit eye-catching, something that's asking people to take an action and actually click through. In this example, want jaw-dropping results, create your ad and campaign today. And that's just really where you're highlighting, what makes your business different from other businesses in your field. There are a number of different things you can do to have, like a more unique and eye-catching text ad. So like I mentioned before, you really want to call out those things that make you different from your competitors, whether that's that you have a huge selection or free shipping, or maybe you have like the lowest prices or you have a sale going on right now. All of that kind of stuff can go into the description field. Another really important piece that I did mention a little bit is that call to action. We want to tell people what we want them to do once they see the ad, whether it's buy now, call now, if you have that phone number showing. In this case, we're saying create your ad campaign today, just so that people realize that they can click through to the ad and actually get started with AdWords. As far as actually having a good quality score actually showing up on the page, one tip that's really useful that people sometimes forget about is to have a keyword basically showing somewhere in your ad. So if I were to search for like ad campaign, for example, then this AdWords ad that we're seeing, this would be really relevant to me. I'd be like, oh yeah, ad campaign, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to create. The more of that you can do. So in our plasma TV example, I'd want to have plasma TV somewhere in that ad so that if someone were searching for plasma TV, they would see that ad and they would know that it's the right fit for them. The other piece here that we're sort of showing on the right side of the page is about mobile ads. So you can actually have text ads that are shown specifically to people on mobile, or you can actually have different types of ads that will only show to folks who are on their mobile devices. And like I mentioned before, this is a really huge proportion of potential customers. So over half of searches on Google in a number of countries at this point are actually on mobile devices. So you really do want to figure out what your strategy is for these folks. A lot of times that involves having a completely different strategy from your desktop and your tablet users. So for mobile, you can still have text ads like you normally would. You can still use image ads in your display network campaigns. The app promotion ads that I mentioned, these are going to be specific to mobile devices, and this is when you're trying to promote your app. If I'm on my mobile phone, then I can click on that ad and head straight to the App Store and download it to my particular device. But if you don't want to create, a separate campaign for mobile, a separate ad type, if you're not trying to promote an app, then what you can do is when you're creating a text ad, you'll see that there's a little checkbox available to check off mobile. And that's how you'll say, okay, this ad text right here, this is going to be specific to mobile users. And so the differences between a mobile text and like a desktop text might be that for that mobile ad, you have a call to action that says, call us now. Whereas on desktop, your call to action might be visit us today, or order online. So just thinking about what that person on that device is really trying to do here, and making it easy for them to understand what you want them to do from there with your ad. A huge thing right now is, of course, mobile apps. That's a really big proportion of the time that people actually spend on their mobile phones, right? It's not just using a web browser, and not just texting. People are also spending a lot of time in apps. So there are a few different things that you can consider here, depending on your app, depending on the the goal that you have. So one thing that I would recommend if you're just getting started with app promotion is the universal app campaign type. This is specifically for Android apps, and it allows you to really easily create an app campaign. It'll automate a lot of that setup for you, the targeting. After you sort of create the ad that you want to show, you can kind of set it and forget it to a degree, and that campaign type will really focus on getting you as many downloads as it can within your target cost per download. Another option is going to be mobile app install campaigns. This is similar to universal app campaigns in that the goal is still to actually get a download on your app. But the mobile app install campaign is a better choice if you're like a more advanced advertiser, if you've run some app campaigns before and you want access to more in-depth targeting like you would see on a search network only or display network only campaign type. And you can use these for iOS apps as well, whereas with the universal app campaigns, those are specifically for Android apps. And these mobile app install campaign types, you can show up on YouTube, the display network, the search network. You really have a great deal of choice here. And the last mobile app campaign type that you'll see available to you is going to be mobile app engagement. And so this is more for users who have already downloaded your app. They're already users. And this type of campaign lets you deep link to specific screens within your mobile app. Really good for trying to get people to come back to your app if they've been away for a while. And you can show this ad type on display and search as well. So let's talk a little bit more about that mobile app engagement type. This is really good, like I said, for bringing people back to your app if they've already downloaded it. Basically just getting them to try it again and to become a more engaged user. So if your goal is not to drive downloads, but to sort of drive like the lifetime value of a customer, then this is going to be a good type to explore. And it lets you get pretty flexible in terms of your bidding, your targeting, and how you count your conversion. So here, basically you can show ads within other apps is quite a unique feature of this campaign type. So it's not just showing up on like those blog and news sites that I mentioned or just on Google search. If there are like app types that are similar to yours, you can try to target your users and bring them back to your app. And you can also do a degree of remarketing as well. Whereas on the search network side, if you decide to set up an app engagement campaign on the search network, you can encourage users to open your app and do something related to what you were searching for on Google. So for example, an example like from my life yesterday would be that if I were searching for a specific user's Twitter account and I did that from the Google app on my phone, then Twitter might show an ad and say, hey, Cassie, come back over to our app and look at the results there. And because I have the app downloaded, it would pull me right back over, so I'd actually spend time in their app. You can set these bids at a cost per click level, and you can set your conversion strategy just like you would in a normal search campaign. And you can also set up, your keywords and generate more keywords that can be suggested for you with the system. And so outside of the app campaigns, the other piece that I mentioned earlier that's really important for any campaign that's targeting mobile is going to be actually having a phone number on your ads. So if you have a brick and mortar store that you're trying to advertise for, or just any website where you're trying to get people to get in touch with you, then having that phone number really accessible to users is so important. If you're making people actually click through your ad, find the phone number on your website, and then type it in on their phone, that's so many steps. It's going to be really difficult for folks to follow. So, good idea is just have it on the ad right there. The nice thing is, and you'll see from this example, that this little call button will show up. And so if I'm a user, I can actually hit that call button to be connected immediately with the business. So having that phone number there, it's still a paying cost per click. So I would just pay for a click if someone clicked on the call button versus if they clicked on my ad and went to my website. But I would still be getting, that immediate phone call. And you can actually decide to track those phone calls as conversions as well, so that you can track your goal progress and see how many conversions you're getting within a month's time, or how much, your cost per conversion is. And having that call button available is hugely valuable to you also, just because it does increase your click-through rate by 6 to 8%, which might sound low, but is really huge considering that a benchmark for search campaigns, click-through rate there is usually only about 1%, like that's a success metric. So if we can get it up 6 to 8%, that's really huge. One of the more advanced campaign types that you might begin using once you have more experience with AdWords is dynamic search ads. And dynamic search ads work a bit differently, of course, from regular search network campaigns, in that basically Google is using its organic web crawling technology to automatically target relevant searches for your website based on what it finds on your web pages. So this can be a really good solution as sort of like a second search campaign if you want to boost your ROI and fill in keyword gaps that you maybe can't think of when you're setting up your regular search campaign. Keep in mind that for a normal search network campaign, you're going to be going through and thinking of most of those keywords yourself, and there's always going to be gaps there. You can never think of all of them. So having a dynamic search ads campaign can really help you fill in those gaps if you really want to be targeting everyone who could be searching for something to do with your business. And it also does save you a little bit of time, because like I said, you don't have to think about all of those keywords. And the other nice thing too is that it can dynamically generate ads for you that are super relevant to what someone is searching for. So you don't have to be responsible for writing really granular ads either. So really helps you to save time, no more mapping like keywords and bids and ad text to the things you find on your website. There's also going to be really frequent and automatic updates to your ads. So Google is, always crawling the website, ensuring that it has the latest version of your pages so that it can dynamically generate ads that are relevant to users and relevant to you as an advertiser as well. You can show those dynamically generated headlines as well. So you'll see in the example here on the slide that in our dynamic search ads case, the headline for your ad will actually be dynamic based on what I'm searching. So if I search for something similar to advertise with Google, then the dynamic search ads campaign can actually input either what I'm searching for or something pretty similar into the ad headline, so that I see that ad and I'm like, yes, this is very relevant to me, and I choose to click on your ad, which helps you with your click-through rate as well. You do have a lot of control over this campaign still, even though you're not choosing the keywords, the ad text you want to show. You can still set limits on which web pages you want the system to crawl. So for example, if you don't want to show ads that lead people directly to your blog or your about page, those kind of like non-commercial parts of your website, you can set up exclusions on those. You don't have to show for them. But essentially, this is just great for people who want to reach additional traffic that they're not reaching currently with their search network campaigns. And so I mentioned that this would be a spot we'd get to next, shopping campaigns and product listing ads. These are just growing and growing from what I've seen working with different customers on the advertiser community. This is, like I said, really great for e-commerce sites, but it can be great for people who have brick and mortar stores as well, if you also are able to buy online on your website. This campaign type does target the Google search network, but it kind of appears in a different place. So if you've ever searched for a product on Google, and you might see this grid of images and prices over on the right-hand side or over on the top of the page, those are going to be shopping ads. And there are tons of benefits here, but I mean, essentially it just allows you to get more traffic to those products, and also for the most part get higher ROI as well. So let me explain a little bit. Shopping ads are essentially for people who are promoting online and local inventory, and they want to either boost traffic to their website or their store and find more qualified leads. So first step is going to be having that product feed of all the products, the prices, the availability on your website, sending that over to the Google Merchant Center. It's another account you can set up for free with Google, and you can link it up to your AdWords account. From there, your Merchant Center feed will actually pull in to AdWords, and AdWords will be able to show those ads for folks depending on what they're searching and if their searches actually match up to what people are searching for and what's in your feed. So that's sort of thing one. You'll set up a shopping campaign as well in your AdWords account, but kind of like the dynamic search ads campaigns, you won't have keywords that you're targeting. You won't have to write specific ads because the ad is that image, the product image and the price and some of the details that you fill in about it. So a lot of that is dynamically generated. And I think the main benefit that I see with customers I've worked with is that you end up getting really qualified people who are clicking through the ad and coming to your website. If I'm shopping for sneakers, for example, and I look through these product listing ads and I see the sneakers I want, I see that they're in the color I like, and I see that the price is the price that I want to pay, if I'm clicking through on that ad, then I already know sort of what I'm getting into, and I'm much more likely to actually make that purchase than I would be if I were just to see a text ad and not know the specific price or not know if you have my size and color available. So click-through rate is usually a lot higher for these ad types. They're really good for those retail-centric clients that you may have, lets you appear across a broader number of searches as well. There are going to be some searches where shopping ads are more important and more clickable than a text ad, for example. And so you can appear on a greater number of searches than you would in just a search campaign on its own. And then I think the other key feature here that's really cool when you're actually looking at your campaign after it's set up and after you're getting some data coming in is that you can use benchmarking metrics. So it can be tricky sometimes to figure out what you should be bidding for different products. And I think it's really important to use your own knowledge of the ROI that you can get on a specific product, right? How much does it cost to produce that product? Is this product more valuable than this one? All of that should factor into your bidding. But what AdWords will do once it gets enough data is it'll also show you some benchmarks. So if you have competitors who are also doing shopping campaigns, let's go with my sneaker example, I can figure out, have an average of, for these specific brand of like white sneakers, what are other people generally putting in as their max cost per click bid, and how much of that impression share am I really getting for that specific product? All of this information is going to be available to you once you have enough data, and it helps you make much more informed decisions when you're actually optimizing that campaign. One thing that I should add here, Google Shopping is still only available in select countries, so you need to check and make sure that it will be available for your client. But I would just say that if it is, I would highly recommend it. I've seen great results with these, and conversion rate is usually quite high as far as purchases go. So here's an example of what these actually look like in practice. So you have the image of that specific product. You're going to see the name of the product as well, so that I have a sense of what it is. We're going to see price. You can also see a rating for that product if it's available. That's going to help me know that, okay, like that glow table lamp is really great, has been working well for 42 different people. I might be more likely to click on that specific example. The other thing I'll draw your attention to in this example here is in the bottom left of these products, there's this little check mark next to the company called Lamps Plus. That little check mark is the symbol for Google Trusted Stores. It's the badge that they give out to people who are part of that program. And Google Trusted Stores basically lets shoppers know that this store ships quickly, provides excellent customer service, and so hovering over that badge will actually give users an expanded report card for that specific business. And so if you can become a Google Trusted Store as well, in addition to setting up your Merchant Center account, in addition to setting up your shopping campaign, this just provides another layer here for consumers to understand that your business is trustworthy, that they should try and order from you, even if you know, they're new to your business. So talked a little bit about mobile ads, talked about shopping campaigns. Moving away from that, let's go back to the idea of the ad extensions. Now, I mentioned that these are specific pieces of info we can add primarily on your text ads. And basically, it's just giving people more of a reason to click on your ad. So a lot of times what people find is once they start adding ad extensions to their ads where they didn't have them before, then the click-through rate will usually increase. This is great because it leads to higher visibility. You might be able to show up higher on the page if Google sees that your ads are very clickable. And then over time, this can lead to better return on investment as well. And I think the other really, important thing to mention here is that all of the ad extensions are free. So as with all things AdWords, you're paying for a cost per click if that's how you set up your bidding. So you might as well take advantage of this extra space on the page to show more info about your business, right? The bigger you can make your ad, the more space you can take up there. So the way that these works is AdWords is actually going to show these extensions when the system calculates that this extension will improve your performance and the ad rank is also high enough for this information to appear. So if your ad is on the bottom of the page, for example, there might not be space down there for ad extensions to show. But oftentimes, if you do an example search and you see the ad extension information showing at the top of the page, being able to show up in the top like 1 through 3 positions is a good way to make sure that a couple of your ad extensions are showing. Again, these are just charged on a cost per click basis. I mentioned that when we talked about the call extension showing your phone number, but it's just good to mention here again. And so lots of different types here. The app extension lets you send people directly to an app store to begin downloading your app. Really good way to introduce your customers to your app in case they didn't know you had one. Call extensions will let people actually directly call your business without having to go through your website to see it. The location extension is really good for brick and mortar stores, especially if I'm on my mobile device and I do a search. It can be really helpful to see that, okay, this grocery store is just half a mile away from me. It's going to make me more likely to go in person and make a purchase. Review extensions, these can showcase positive third-party reviews from reputable sources. Important to mention here that unfortunately we can't show reviews that you've collected yourself. These reviews are usually going to come from, like I said, those reputable sources, and you can upload those specifically and sort of go through those requirements. But if you have those reviews available, it can be really helpful to show people that information and, again, really understand that they can trust this business. Site link extensions are really common. These are going to be the links that show up below your ad. So it might be pointing people to like the About Us page on the website, for example, or you can show people how they can get directly to your contact page without having to go to your landing page. Now, call-out extensions are a newer extension type. These are like my personal favorite, I would say. And this is basically where you can highlight information, what makes you different from your competitors, and really call out that information. So this is a really good spot to put like free shipping, open like 5 days a week. You can say huge selection, great customer service, any of those things that you'd want to mention and really like highlight on your ad. And then the last one here, previous visits. This shows people if they've clicked through to your website before. And so overall, adding an ad extension, it doesn't impact your quality score, but it may increase your clicks. Beyond ad extensions, you can also customize your ads with real-time updates and keyword insertion code. So ad customizers, in case you're not familiar, they're basically allowing text ads to adapt based on specific criteria that you put in. So it could be based on search keywords, it could be based on the user's location, their device type, or sort of like the date, the time of the week, all of that information. More specifically, that keyword insertion customizer. This is allowing your ads to update with the keywords that cause them to show. The search term that someone put in is not always going to be the same as the keyword in your account, but if it's pretty close, then this is, again, a good way to show that really customized information to potential customers so your ad seems super relevant and it increases your click-through rate. So, for example, when we're talking about, if I have a chocolate shop, for example, in this example, I might have the keywords dark chocolate, sugar-free chocolate, and chocolate all in my account. And if I set up dynamic keyword insertion, then what the system can do is it can actually say, okay, well, this potential customer searched for dark chocolate bar. Cassie has dark chocolate in her keyword list. That's pretty close. And it can actually show dark chocolate in that ad headline to be a really good fit with that person's specific search. And I think beyond looking at the ad itself and sort of like the additional information that we can add, it's also really important to think about where you're sending your customers after they click on your ad. It's not going to be enough to just show them really good ad text and to call out that information and show the ratings, right? When people click through to the website, it has to be clear to them where do they need to go in order to make a purchase and how can they get in touch. They want to have that really positive website experience. And I think another big piece of this as well is going to be having that positive experience on mobile devices. So all well and good if your website loads quickly on a desktop computer, but if over half of your customers are searching on their mobile phones and your website loads really slowly or isn't mobile optimized, if people have to sort of zoom in order to click on different buttons, that's not going to be a very positive website experience, and some people might bounce away and not stay put. It might not complete the actual purchase. So those are all factors to consider as far as mobile goes, but general, overall best practices would be providing relevant, useful, original content. So, websites can't be clones of other websites. They should actually be related to what that person is searching for. You really just want to provide useful information on your landing page that matches up with the ad content that you had. And again, just make it easy to navigate your site. Should be really clear where that shopping cart is. People should want to spend time on your website overall. So now talking about showing your ads and determining bids here. So I think one of the most important things that you could take away from this would be to accurately use keyword matching options. As far as taking the search exam and being familiar with keyword match types is super important. So as a general rule, broad match keywords are going to be able to match to keywords that, many more keywords than an exact match keyword will, for example. It's recommended to start with broad match terms and move to more specific terms as you analyze effectiveness. The more specific the term, the more qualified and attractive the audience might be. But you can also look at your search terms report to figure out what the best keywords are for your specific type. And I think the other really important thing that I'd point out here is at the bottom of this chart, the negative match type. A lot of people forget about this feature, but this is another place where you can pull from the search terms report and see, okay, if you're showing up for the word free, for example, if you're a business, you probably are not offering a number of free things. So free might be a negative keyword that you would add there just to make sure you're not paying for clicks that are not actually relevant to what you're offering to potential customers. language and geographic targeting, there are a lot of different options here, but essentially the language targeting is allowing you to choose the language of sites you'd like your ad to appear on. So the ads are shown to customers that use Google products or visit the Google Display Network in that same language. Really important here that AdWords does not translate ads or keywords. So if you're trying to show ads or keywords in another language, you have to put them into AdWords in that specific language yourself. The language your customers are targeted in is based on their Google interface language settings. So targeting all languages might be helpful for a customer who searches in Spanish but has their settings for Google set to English. They would not see your ad in Spanish, they would see it in English, but you could still target them because they searched in Spanish. Language targeting is really powerful, but lots of situations where it may not actually be the best approach. So if your keyword is hotel, for example, which is spelled the same in many different languages, if you're targeting all languages, people might see your ad but not understand the language that you've written it in. So to show an ad like this in multiple languages, you might actually want to create separate campaigns for each language and have ad text that relates to each of those languages separately. And then I think the other piece that you're going to see here is, of course, going to be location targeting. So this is helping you focus your ads on the areas with qualified customers, with people that you can actually serve. And the good news is that these can be adjusted at any time. So you can use these advanced location targeting options to reach people in searching for or who show interest in your region. You can make it more specific and just show ads to people who are, in your targeted location. All depends on your specific product. But combining the language piece as well as the location targeting can be really powerful for some businesses. So for example, if I targeted the language English and I also targeted the country of France, that could help me, if I'm a restaurant owner in France, to target people who are searching in English, who are going to be coming to France as tourists, and I can help attract them to my business. Choosing the type of bidding you want to use is going to be another really big decision that you need to make in your campaign beyond the actual campaign type. There's lots of different types, but at a high level, we have cost per click bidding, which is the CPC bidding. CPA bidding is cost per action. And then flexible bidding are these other bidding strategies that allow you to set certain strategies across multiple campaigns or ad groups. And a lot of times these are focused on targeting a specific return on investment. So the CPC bidding is, I would say, what's most common for campaign types, especially on the search network. This is where you're setting your max cost per click. So you're saying, okay, this is the highest amount that I want to pay when a viewer is interested in actually clicking on my ad. You can either choose to set your own max cost per click or let AdWords automatically adjust it for you. But you'll find a lot of times you'll actually end up paying less than your max cost per click, depending on the specific auction setup. And so diving in a little bit to the flexible bidding strategies, like I said, there's lots of different options here. Some of the most common would be the enhanced cost per click. This is what lets you actually you can still have manual cost per click adjustments. I can still set a max cost per click, but enhanced cost per click will also use any conversion data that you've gathered and use that to adjust your bids up or down by a max of 30%, depending on how likely that specific user is to convert on your website. So based on their browsing history, based on what they've typed into Google, if that person seems really likely to convert, then AdWords will automatically adjust your bid up a little bit. I would say the other most common ones here are target CPA. This is where if you know that target cost per acquisition that you have, target cost per conversion, then you can set that in the system as long as you have enough conversion data, and AdWords will automatically adjust individual keyword and ad auction bids, all trying to help you reach that target CPA. So you won't have control over how much you want to bid for keyword A versus keyword B, but the overall goal in this case is to not have that individual control, but to be working toward that overall cost per conversion goal. Maximize clicks is the other one that's really, really common in a lot of accounts. This is a more automatic bidding feature. Basically lets AdWords automatically set your bids to get you the most clicks it can within a target spend amount. So within that target daily budget that you set, AdWords will automatically adjust your bid day by day to try to get you the most clicks it can. And speaking of budgets, AdWords works on a daily budget system. So there's lots of options here that can help you maximize your resources. A good rule to think about here is, your cost per click times your cost per day is going to be a sample daily budget. So daily budget you set obviously depends on your resources and also depends on how many clicks you want to be getting in a day and how much the cost per click is in your given industry. So if, for example, a client has a monthly advertising budget with you, then you'll want to take that overall monthly amount, divide it by 30.4 to get the average amount per day that you would spend on a budget. Just because at this time you can't put a monthly budget into AdWords, you do have to have that daily budget. There are specific cases where your campaign may cost more than your daily budget, so it might end up spending more than that amount that you put in. Basically what happens is that AdWords is trying to maximize your return on investment. So if there's great demand for searches on a particular day, AdWords will go ahead and show you more often, even if you've already hit your daily budget, with the idea that other days when there's less demand, you're going to spend less. So your overall spend will still average out to that daily budget amount that you set over the course of a month's time. If for some reason it is more than that and you do overspend, then AdWords will go back and give you an over delivery credit. So you don't really have to worry about that side of things. It really is just for your benefit to try to help you get more conversions, more calls. But if you are concerned and you're hitting your daily budget every single day, or sort of running out of resources on that front, there are some things you can do. So you can let AdWords automatically bid for you. That would be using the maximized clicks strategy that I mentioned before. You can go into your campaign settings and actually change your delivery method from accelerated to standard to just kind of like ease back on things, make sure that AdWords is not pushing your ad too much. You can utilize the AdWords recommended budgets. In the panel where you can set your budget, you'll see on screen here, you can say view recommended budget, and AdWords will let you know what it thinks that you could set as a budget in a given day. And if need be, you can also always lower your max cost per click. So if you're doing that manual bidding strategy, you can always go in and lower your bids on particular keywords or ad groups. I would definitely recommend in general, if you have keywords that are not performing up to your standards, not getting you a good cost per conversion, I would always recommend, lowering those bids a little bit, and that can help you save some money as well. Ad scheduling and rotation is another factor that some people don't consider when they're originally starting campaigns, but can be really important. Just think about, if your business is not open 7 days a week or 24 hours a day, and you're mainly looking for people to come into your business, that could be an example where you don't want your ads to show 24/7. On the flip side, maybe it's just that you want to prioritize certain times of day. So if I'm an e-commerce store, for example, I sell everything online, and I look through my data and I find that people are primarily finding my website and making purchasing decisions during work hours, right? Maybe they're looking at my site while they're at work. I could actually set a bid adjustment for those specific hours to prioritize those hours, bid a little bit higher during those times, and then bid a little bit less during the off hours. In my case, where I'm an e-commerce store, I wouldn't necessarily want to turn off my ads in those off hours completely, because anyone can purchase at any time on my website, but I just want to make sure that I'm saving my budget and my resources for those times of day when I know people are more likely to make a purchase. This can be, like I said, really helpful if your campaign is limited by budget, or if you're usually spending the budget every single day. This can be a way to cut back on your spend. some more advanced features here that you can start thinking about after you've set up the basics in your campaign, like the ads and the keywords. You'll want to think a little bit about your URL tracking if you're doing any. In some cases, it's enough that you have your landing page URL and you're just going to use AdWords and Google Analytics perhaps in your reporting, but you don't need to go too in-depth beyond that. But there are options to use a tracking template so that you can actually add parameters and see deeper information about your website analytics and who comes from AdWords and when. You can also use cross-account conversion tracking if that's important to you. So if you have multiple accounts for the same business and want to track conversions across all of them, you can do that with just a single tag without having to juggle, 50 different tags here. So leads to fewer code snippets and reports, and these reports obviously become simpler and more powerful. And then the other feature that you'd want to consider that also involves putting some code on the website would be remarketing. Now, remarketing is just a way that you can reach past website visitors and show them highly targeted ads, basically try to get them to come back to your website whether they purchased before or they did not. You can either set this up with AdWords remarketing code, which would involve putting a piece of code on your website, or you can use Google Analytics setup. If you already have Google Analytics on that website, you don't have to add another piece of code, which is really nice. And you can do this a couple different ways. So typical remarketing that you've probably seen before is using the display network. So this would be a way for me to show a past visitor to my website an ad when they're browsing other parts of the internet, just trying to get them to come back and view that product that they looked at before and maybe even add it to their shopping cart. The other thing that I guess is a little bit more of an advanced feature or not as well known, but which is really easy to set up, is remarketing on search. So this actually allows you to take one of those remarketing lists you have, so a list of past visitors to your website, and lets you target them differently when they're on Google search and when they're searching for keywords that are related to your business. So you might decide, for example, that you want to bid higher for these folks because if they've been to your website and now they're searching for keywords that are related to your business, there's a pretty good chance that they're continuing to do their research and that they're closer to making a purchase. So you could bid a little bit higher for those folks. Another option is that you can actually exclude those people. So if they're people who, let's say you only sell one product and it's very unlikely that people come back and purchase, you could always exclude those past visitors so that more of your budget is saved for the new visitors, for example. One thing I'll add here is that Google does require that you have at least 1,000 cookies or 1,000 visitors on that list before it can be used to target people who are on the Google search network, just for privacy reasons and just to make sure that we can actually get you some traffic there. If you're looking to do the remarketing on the display network, then that requirement is only for 100 users on that list before it can start running. One more advanced feature here is going to be managing your campaigns with rules and bulk changes. This is really important, I find, for people who have My Client Center accounts, typically agencies who are managing multiple AdWords accounts and don't want to go in and individually add things. Automated rules can let you set up specific situations where you want maybe to change the budget on a given day or to change bids at certain times of day. And AdWords scripts are a more robust version of this. They do require some code knowledge, so it's actually using JavaScript code to change things like your bids, pausing campaigns and ad groups, or changing your daily budget. But again, can be really powerful, so you don't have to log into individual accounts every day to make those changes. AdWords Editor is a way that you can get a ton of stuff done in bulk. You can download it for free online and make any of the changes that you need to. They're usually releasing new versions quite frequently to keep up with any new AdWords releases. And then lastly here, you can do bulk edits, and you can also get access potentially to the AdWords API by requesting the token. That can let you make changes to AdWords without having to go into the AdWords interface at all. Within AdWords itself, you have more options for actually optimizing your account. You can use the keyword planner by going to the top of your AdWords account and going to Tools and then Keyword Planner. This can help you get new keyword ideas, get a sense of what keyword traffic might be like, and get some of those forecasts. Another tool that I really like to use is Google Trends, and that can just tell you overall what kinds of searches are obviously trending on Google, whether they're getting more popular over time or less popular. The AdWords Bid Simulator will actually let you see how many more clicks or impressions that you could get if you changed your bid higher or lower. And then the Opportunities tab in your account will also tell you if there's things that the AdWords system sees where you could, get more bang for your buck, essentially. So if there's campaigns that are limited by budget, if there are keywords in your search terms report that you're not targeting but that are converting for you, you can see them there. And this is all really a part of this how to measure your performance and how to actually optimize around that. So a couple of things here. From the Search Network campaigns, you can use the AdWords report editor. It's this really nice kind of like clean interface. You can drag and drop different segments that you want to be put in your report. And this can help you to either create reports for clients, for others at your agency, or just for yourself, so you can get a sense over time of how things in the account are changing. And then, of course, you can also download reports from the interface itself on things like clicks, impressions, click-through rate, average position. And then there's a whole range of columns as well that you can add into your AdWords report. If you don't see them in the main interface, like I've talked to clients before who, for example, are they know that they've seen like specific content in the past and are like, I know it was in AdWords and I haven't seen it since. It's probably hiding in your custom columns. So you can go to columns, customize columns, and pick out of this whole list of what you want to appear on your screen. Worst case scenario is that you have to scroll a little bit left and right to see all those columns, but the information will all be there. And so I'd really encourage you to get to know all of this different information. Once you add these columns to your report, there will be this little question mark next to each one where you can find out more information about that specific metric if you're not sure how it's being calculated. A lot of times there will be links there that will help you go back to the AdWords Help Center as well to get a more robust explanation if you're unsure. Another way that you can actually look at data, so you obviously want to have the columns of all of that important data that you need, but you can also segment out your data using this segment dropdown. So you can see, for example, based on time of day, how many clicks are you getting? If you're seeing that conversions column and you're not sure which conversions came from which action, like are these phone calls, are these purchases, you can segment by conversion name as well, just to get a better sense of that. And I think the other thing that's really valuable here too, there's an option for network with search partners. That can give you a sense of, in your search campaigns, how much of your traffic is actually coming from search partners versus Google.com searches. So really it just all comes back to thinking about your campaign goals, right? So creating high quality ads, aligning keywords with your business goals. As far as bidding goes, what is your goal here? Are you looking for conversion metrics? Do you have a really solid target cost per conversion that you're working toward? Or are you mainly trying to get traffic to your website and just starting out? I would like to point out too that there are some experiments you can set up with your campaigns. So if you, for example, have a couple different ad copies and you're not sure which one will work better for you in terms of getting you the most conversions, you can actually set up an experiment, have the system rotate through those different ad versions. And over time, maybe you run it for 30 days, you can see which of those ads performed better and then adjust the account accordingly. Same thing with there's lots of options here, but you can also set it with different keywords. You can try a different bidding strategy. So before you take an account or a campaign and completely change the bidding strategy, for example, you can actually test it out and see, okay, does this change increase conversions? Does it actually improve my quality and my return on investment here? Lastly here, just want to talk a little bit about the exam logistics and resources. There's obviously a lot of information in this presentation, but I think I would encourage you to also use some of the other resources that we have as well. So this is recorded, so you'll be able to review this presentation. But you can also refer to the AdWords Help Center, which has a lot of really in-depth information about how every feature works, how you can implement it, what the best practices are. You can always go to the Google Partners community, the AdWords community, and ask questions there, where there are experts and community managers like myself who can always help out. There's a search study guide as well, where you can gain an overview of that important info that's going to be on the exam. So beyond like looking through this presentation, just making sure that you're really familiar with those key points. And the exam itself, it's 120 minutes that you have to take it. There's going to be 98 questions. You need at least an 80% correct rate to pass. But once you do pass it, then that certification is valid for the next year before you can take it again. And you can go to google.com/partners to take it. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I'm so glad that you could be here with me. And you can always leave questions as well on the AdWords community. But I'll talk to you soon if you head over there.